Today we're going to be looking at VMware's Photon project running on top of vCloud Air. VMware's Photon project is a minimal Linux container host, similar to CoreOS, where essentially we can run Docker containers, Rocket, and Pivotal Garden containers on top of it. But today we're going to be looking at running it inside of vCloud Air. Inside of the vCloud Air interface, we already have our new virtual data center already provisioned. Now, it's not as easy going up and just spinning up a new virtual machine because we don't have a container host ready to go. So what we need to do is we need to make some changes to our networks to be able to make sure this is going to deploy correctly. We don't need all 255 addresses. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take this down to 99. And I'm going to go ahead and just make this 109 as another label to make it more easily readable inside of our UI. Now that that's done, I need to go to the gateways. Inside my gateway, I need a new public IP. This public IP is a way that I can get internal access from outside the world, as well as be able to pull things from the outside world into my container. I'm going to go ahead and just wait a minute and let this public IP address come alive. Now that I have my public IP, I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste this into a notepad because we're going to need this later, so just keep this IP address handy. Now I need to go ahead and create my first virtual machine. But as we can see, I don't have anything available inside my catalogs. So I need to go ahead and do this inside of the vCloud Director interface itself by going ahead and saying I'm going to create one from scratch. Now that I'm here, I need to go ahead and I need to create a new catalog. Now from this catalog, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to call this Container OS. Now you can actually upload any of your own ISOs you want. But the great thing that we have available to us is that we can actually pull something directly from VMware's container or its already published catalog. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to VMware's public catalog. I'm going to select their Photon image and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to copy it to my Container OS. At any point, I can flip back to my own catalog and I can see that it's copying. I'm going to let this run in the background while we go and configure some other things. I need to go to the administration side. I'm going to drill down inside my virtual data center. And within here, I can configure things with either inside the Edge gateway or with inside the Org VDC network. Either way, it's going to make the same exact changes. I need to go into my property setting. Inside the property setting, I need to go ahead and add my DNS addresses. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and add in my Google DNS servers. Google DNS servers are up. Now let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and configure services. The first thing I need to do is configure my DHCP service. I'm going to enable DHCP and I'm going to go ahead and add the IP range that I want. From here, I'm going to choose 192.168.109 of 200 through 254. Now I need to go ahead and create a new virtual machine. I'm going to go to the Build a VApp page. I'm going to give it a name such as Photon_VApp. And I need to build a new virtual machine since I can't choose one from the catalog. So I'm just going to call it Photon01. I'm going to choose Linux as my host OS. And I need to choose other Linux 3.x 64-bit. Now I'm also going to change this to 8 gigs of memory, and you can change it to anything else that suits your particular need. Remember, this is running on vCloud Air, so the more pieces you access in here, the more you're going to get charged. I'm going to set it standard. Now this is where it becomes pivotal. I need to change this to my default network and run it on as DHCP. Go ahead and click Next and click Finish. After the VApp is completed, I'm going to go ahead and drill into it. When I'm inside of its particular properties here, I'm going to go ahead and attach a CD. I'm going to attach the ISO that was from our media folder inside the container OSs that we had before. Click the virtual machine to bring up its console window. Now we're at the Photon installer. Let's go ahead and go through the process. We're going to go ahead and click the install button and let it load Linux. Let's go ahead and accept the EULA. We're going to go ahead and erase the disk. And we want to be able to choose the full operating system install. So click All. We're going to configure a host name such as photon.01.local, and I'm going to choose a root password. Go ahead and click Next, and the installation is going to begin. We need to allow this virtual machine to connect to the internet. To do this, we can go to our vCloud Air interface. We can select our virtual machine that we created, go to Actions, and click on Connect to the internet. When we do this, in the background, it's going to be creating some source NAT as well as some firewall rules that we're going to go ahead and customize to make them more tailored to our needs. vCloud Air is finished, so let's go back to vCloud Director. And we'll go ahead and we'll configure these services a little bit more to customize our needs. Within here, I'm going to go to the NAT settings. I'm going to look at it and see that it actually created a source NAT rule. Within this source NAT rule, it only said for this particular IP address. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and edit it to let the entire IP address range to go out. At the same time, I'm going to copy it and I'm going to be able to use that as my destination NAT. So I'm going to use this as my destination NAT to know that anything on the outside world that wants to come and talk to this particular IP address, I'm going to set it to talk to my internal IP address of .200. I can't set an IP range right now, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this just for that particular virtual machine. A little bit later, you can play with load balancers and stuff like that as the IP address you want to hit. Now I need to make some firewall changes. Within the firewall side, I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit less granular and open up and make it more flexible. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to allow an any rule. That means anything internally within my subnet, I'm going to allow it to get to anything on the outside world or out on the internet. This makes it a little bit more flexible for me to download a script or a bash file that we're going to be able to use a little bit later on here. Now I'm also going to make the firewall rules a little bit more lenient. I'm going to delete the ones that are already there. And the first rule that I'm going to create is an ICMP rule. The second rule I'm going to create is as an SSH rule. Both of these rules allow anything from the external side in for those particular ports or those particular protocols. We can go to the edge gateway to see if it's actually still configuring. At the same time, we can actually go into our Photon VM. We can go ahead and log in with our root and our password that we had provisioned before. And from here, I'm going to download a script file or a bash file located at kendrickcoleman.com/focadownload/user-upload/photon-quickstart.sh pipe sh. This is going to go ahead and allow root access for SSH, as well as it's going to go ahead and start the Docker services. For my command line, I can now ping the IP address of what I had externally, and now I can also SSH into it. Thanks for watching this first video. In the second video, we're going to be examining exactly how we're going to be running Docker containers inside of the vCloud Air Cloud.